Ahoy mateys, and welcome to Let's Talk Like a Pirate Week from the Memphis Public Libraries. My name is Cagle, and alas, I am not a pirate. But I'm here to talk to you a little bit about pirates and a little bit more about some musical instruments that might or might not be familiar to you. So, the heyday of what we think of as pirates was between the 1600s and the 1700s, which was a relatively short period of time. But in that time, they were able to leave a lasting legacy that's been romanticized in books and plays and movies like Pirates of the Caribbean, Peter Pan. But those movies and books are based a little less on historical fact. Initially, instead of being pirates, this group of men were called privateers. They were sailors who were hired by different countries legitimately to go and fight for them and fly the flag of the country that they worked for. Well, it didn't take very long for these men to figure out that all this robbing and looting and taking it back to somebody else would be better if they just kept it for themselves. They also found out that kidnapping for ransom was a great way to make money, and so piracy was born. Now, pirates flew a black flag instead of the flags of the countries that they had worked for. We think of pirate flags as being the skull and crossbones, but there were all kinds of designs that went onto the flags, but they were always black. One of the main things that the movies get wrong is the size of the ship. When we see these ships on Pirates of the Caribbean, they look like they're the size of a Royal Princess cruise ship. But in reality, these ships were only about 50 to 60 feet long. And instead of having these massive rows of cannons all down the sides of the ship, they maybe had 2 cannons. These movies also portray these large ships as being on battles on the high seas with waves crashing all around and jumping from ship to ship. Well, that's a really hard thing to do, as you might expect. So instead of being out in the middle of the ocean where it was very dangerous, pirates had a tendency to lurk along the shorelines, and when they saw a ship coming into port, they would sail out and rob it there where it wasn't quite as dangerous. So as far as music on the pirate ships, they needed instruments that would be small, easy to carry, easy to store once they were on board ship. Things like a fife or a penny whistle, a fiddle was common, a mandolin, something small. So the smallest and easiest to carry on board would have been the most ancient instrument known to man, and that is the voice. So they, of course, would sing on board ship. One of the simplest ways of providing these songs was through something called a sea shanty. S-H-A-N-T-Y, shanty. And these were work songs for the pirates. Many of these were call and response, very similar to the call and response work songs that would have been found on the plantations of slaves in the South. Many of the pirate ships would have held hostages, slaves, and low-level sailors. So let's try a sea shanty together. This is one that I actually learned when I was in elementary school, and you may have heard it too. It's called Blow the Man Down. Now, blow the man down is a phrase that means throwing one of the sailors down and beating him up. That was not explained to me in elementary school. So we'll sing together. I'm going to sing a line, and you sing the response. The response will be, yo-ho, blow the man down. And then I'll sing another line, and your response will be, give me some time to blow the man down. Now, be sure and do your sailor arms when you do these lines. So here we go. Come all ye young fellas that follows the sea. Yo ho, blow the man down. Now please pay attention and listen to me. Give me some time to blow the man down. I'm a deep water sailor, just come from Hong Kong. Yo ho, blow the man down. You give me some whiskey, I'll sing you a song. Give me some time to blow the man down. Now when the big liner, she's clear of the land. Yo ho, blow the man down. Our bosun, he roars out a word of command. Give me some time to blow the man down. Very good. Now in the last verse, there was a reference to what's called a bosun, B-O-S-U-N, bosun. And the line in the song was, our bosun, he roars out a word of command. A bosun originally was a boat swain, B-O-A-T-S-W-A-I-N. That was kind of a hard word to say. And so over time, the word shortened from being boat swain to being bosun. And there are still bosuns on naval ships today. The bosun is the person who's in charge of making sure that all the deckhands do what they're supposed to do. So the next instrument that you might see on board a pirate ship is called a bosun's whistle. And a bosun's whistle is a funny little copper and brass whistle. It might have a chain on it that the bosun could hang around his neck. And the bosun would blow signals, such kind of like doing a Morse code with the whistle, because on the high seas, in the open air, and the waves are crashing, it's very hard to hear. And so this makes a very high-pitched sound and would be easier to be heard on board a ship. And so it sounds something like this. So there that is, has a little bowl there, a little tiny hole. These bosun whistles are still used today to make signals for sailors in the Navy. So another whistle that might have been heard on the pirate ship is a fife or penny whistle. They're very small whistles. Sometimes they would be made out of wood, sometimes they would be made out of metal. But again, very small, easy to carry, and also very high pitched so that they could be heard in the open air. So I'm going to play this little fife for you. So that would have been another sound that you might have heard on a pirate ship. So now I would like to play you a song from the 1600s that very likely would have been heard by pirates. However, I am not going to play it on any type of pirate instrument. My favorite instrument is the mountain dulcimer. This is an instrument that is invented in the United States, not a pirate instrument, and not an instrument that pirates even would have heard in that time, but I would like to play you a tune that would have been heard during that time, perhaps if pirates were in port. And this is a song called "The Water is Wide." shouldn't have put that down, because when we talk about pirates, we can't ever forget the British Navy. The British Navy was a pirate's favorite foe, as we still see in the movies today. And so the British Navy is known for the formation that they make when they set sail, and that is in the shape of a V. And that's become known as the Gray Funnel Line. That is the nickname of the British Navy. And so I would like to do a song for you called The Gray Funnel Line. Don't mind the rain or the rolling sea, the weary night never worries me, but the hardest time in a sailor's day is to watch the sun as it fades away. It's one more day on the gray funnel line, the finest ship that sails the sea is still a prison for the likes of me. But give me wings like Noah's dove. I'll fly up harbor to the one I love. It's one more day on the gray funnel line. It's one more day on the gray funnel line. So a sad lament, a sailor watching the sun fade away and wishing he was back home with the one he loves. So another instrument that might have been found on a pirate ship is called a mandolin. Now you may be familiar with a bluegrass mandolin, which is shaped very different from this. The strings on the bluegrass mandolin, the mandolin today, would be the same configuration. It's double strings, 4 sets of double strings. But on this mandolin, which is from the early 1800s, not very far from the pirate days, has this rounded back on it. And so it's sometimes called a bowl-backed mandolin, that's what it looks like, is a bowl. And it's sometimes called a taterbug mandolin. That's usually what my friends call it. And these stripes that you see on the back are individual pieces of wood that have been curved and glued together to make this bowl shape. So the song I want to do for you on this little taterbug mandolin is called Coleman's March. It was written by a man named Joe Coleman, who was a well-known fiddler in his day. But he was accused of murdering his wife, and he claimed that he was innocent, but he was convicted anyway, and he rode to the gallows sitting on top of his coffin, which was in a wagon, and he rode through the streets to the gallows and played his fiddle on the way to the gallows. And when he got there, he announced to the crowd that he would give his fiddle to anyone who could play as well as he could, because he wasn't going to need it anymore anyway. So a gentleman stepped from the crowd and took the fiddle and played it, apparently to Joe's satisfaction, because he gave his fiddle away and went up on the gallows to be hung. But then, in a strange turn of events, as he was being hung, the rope broke. And in those days, it was considered an act of God for the rope to break, and he was set free after that, because they thought that was God telling them that he actually was innocent. And as it turns out, in later days, someone else confessed to killing his wife, and so he actually was innocent. So, this is Coleman's March. There was Coleman's March on the Taterbug mandolin. So now it's time for a pirate's story. One day, a young pirate went into the tavern, and he saw an old pirate captain sitting in the corner with his peg leg and his hook arm and a patch over his eye and his parrot up on his shoulder. And he walked over and he said, "Aye, Captain, do you mind telling me how you got your peg leg?" And the old captain says, "Oh, it's a great story. I'll tell you if you buy me some ale." So the young pirate buys him some ale and sits down. And the old captain says, "Well, you see, I was a young captain, a young pirate on the sea, and I was supposed to be doing me work. But I snuck down into the hold and I found the captain's grog, and I got drunk on the captain's grog, and the captain found me, and he was very angry with me, so he had me keel hauled around the boat. And as I was going around the keel, a shark came by and bit off me leg, and that's how I got me peg leg." And the young pirate says, "Oh, Captain, that's a great story. Can you tell me, how did you get your hook arm?" And the captain said, "Oh, that's a great story. I was a captain of my own ship by then, and we were on the high seas, and we were trying to board the Queen's ship. And as I was crossing over onto the Queen's ship, one of her guards took his sword and whacked off me arm, and that's how I got me hook arm." And the young pirate said, "Oh, Captain, that's a great story. Can you tell me, how did you get your patch on your eye?" And the captain says, "Well, one day I was standing on the bow of the ship, and I had me parrot on my shoulder, and all of a sudden the parrot flies up into the sky, and the sun was straight above me, and I was straining, trying to see where my parrot had gone, and all at once the parrot poops in me eye." And the young pirate says, "Whoa, Captain, does parrot poop make you blind?" And the old captain said, "No, it was the first week with me hook arm." So that's my only pirate story. All right, so another instrument, I'm sure you may have been wondering about this monster of an instrument that's been sitting behind me all this time. This is called a hammered dulcimer. And it has the same name as the instrument I had before, the mountain dulcimer, but they're not related at all. This is a relatively modern instrument, invented in the United States. As I said, the hammered dulcimer is a Persian instrument. It dates all the way back to biblical times, and it's basically a piano without any keys on it. Instead of having keys on it like a piano, you have these little mallets or hammers. And so it's called a hammered dulcimer because you hit the strings with these hammers. Now, this instrument is very big and very heavy, and so you would not have found it on a pirate ship. However, it is very likely that it would have been found in one of the ports that pirates would have visited during those days. And so I'm going to play a tune from that era called Katusha on the hammered dulcimer, and I will hit the strings with the mallets like this. So now I'm going to go back to the mountain dulcimer for my last song. And this is a song that was written in 1779, not by a pirate, but he was written by a very notorious slave trader who captured slaves and hauled them back and forth across the ocean. His name was John Newton. And even though the song was written in 1779, it has lasted all these years. I'm sure that you will recognize the tune. John Newton wrote the tune after he was nearly drowned. His ship nearly sank in the ocean. He did not think he was going to live, and he changed his life. He prayed on board the ship for God to save him, and he went back to England and changed his life, stopped being a slave trader, became a minister in the church, and he wrote this song that I play quite often in concerts called Amazing Grace. Thank you for joining me today on this pirate voyage for the Memphis Public Library. I hope that you enjoyed our time together, and hopefully I'll see you for other programs with your Memphis Public Library. Thank you.